Hi everyone, this is Michelle Weens from Performance High, and welcome to today's live. Today we're going to talk about cravings. We have lots of them, I'm sure. I know I do. And they are kind of an interesting little phenomena. So I thought that we would talk about them a bit and see if we can figure them out a little more and get a better understanding of why we have them and what to do about them. My intention for these lives, I just want to put this right out there up front, is my intention for these lives is that they are that they're interactive. So the whole reason for doing a live, right, is so that we can actually interact, even if we're not in the same space. So if you have comments, questions, things to share, please put those, you can post them in, or you can just put them into a message down below, in which case I'll see it later. But I do want I do want these lives to be, somewhat interactive of sorts, so that I don't just feel like I'm sitting here talking to myself. So those of you out there, if you have, like I said, if you do have comments or things to say, hey Yetta, thanks for joining. Then please post, and you can either put it in the little comment section where it shows up on my screen and I can address it right then and there, or you can put it down in the comments below and I'll see it later on after the video goes up. So that's what I want for these lives, is a little bit of fun interaction. We're also going to do a little fun demo stuff today, so I hope I can do this without losing the camera like I did on my last demo where I pulled the camera off the stand. So I'm going to be a little more careful this time and hopefully it's going to work. So, okay, let's start talking about cravings. Interesting topic. So first and foremost, there are several different causes for them, and I'm sure you all know what they are. Stress and anxiety tops the list. That's one of the biggest reasons why we tend to have cravings, is if we're under a lot of stress, we have high anxiety in our life. Super big reason, okay? Lack of sleep, another big reason why we can have cravings. Infrequent eating, dieting, calorie load being too low, another big reason why we have cravings. And I'm going to go through all of these little things in a little bit by bit here in just a sec. So just kind of listing them for you. Dehydration, another one. And then eliminations, like where you do elimination. I guess that would be in the diets, right? Where you eliminate certain food groups, don't eat them at all. Another big reason why we can crave those things. So to kind of get into the meat of this, no pun intended, haha, stress and anxiety. Let's talk about that one first. So what is the deal with stress and anxiety, and why does that make us crave stuff? So stress causes adrenaline rush, and that's our natural response to stress. It's that fight or flight mechanism that we have, and your adrenaline rush will just eat up a ton of blood sugars right off the bat. So actually, I learned this in kind of an interesting way. I used to teach mountain bike clinics, workshops with a fellow coach, and I'll just name her Barb Kreisel. She's amazing. If you know Barb, you know that she's an awesome person and coach. And we were teaching a mountain bike clinic one day, and one of the gals crashed, and Barb went right over to her. Of course, we picked her up off the ground, and Barb said to her, okay, first things first, is anything broken? Can you move everything? And she was fine. And the second thing Barb said to her was, okay, you need to eat something. And I kind of looked at her like, oh, well, that's interesting suggestion. And Barb said, yeah. She said, if you crash, your adrenaline goes sky high. And so you burn through all your blood sugar, and you really need to replace that like pretty immediately so that you can think straight, think clearly. So she said the first thing that you should always do after you take a crash or a fall or anything like that is eat. And I've passed that information on to bunches of people in different situations. So stress and anxiety, adrenaline rush, eats up blood sugar. So that's one of the biggest reasons why stress and anxiety causes us to crave things, is because we're looking for that instant food fix. So it particularly triggers cravings for carbohydrate and fat. And there are a couple reasons for that. Carbohydrates, of course, boost serotonin. And serotonin has a calming effect. So when we're stressed out, we're looking for something that calms us back down. That can be from your carbohydrate. And then fats boost dopamine, which is a pleasure and reward feeling. So again, this sense of like heightened anxiety, we want to feel good. So a little bit of fat helps us kind of feel like, oh, okay, everything's better. So the combination of carb and fat together creates this really powerful mix of neurotransmitters and chemicals in our body that helps us. So one of the biggest reasons why stress and anxiety cause cravings. Lack of sleep. What does lack of sleep do? Being tired, of course, is a energy level issue. And so your body senses that if it doesn't have enough sleep in the system to make it feel rejuvenated, your energy stores feel low. And so, of course, what do? We go for things like caffeine and then also for things that provide quick energy. So again, we go to things like fat and sugar because those are quick calories. Very often, found in junk foods. So when we're tired, we tend to eat a little more high carb, a little more high fat to kind of make us feel a little more energetic. And that is one of the reasons why lack of sleep and weight gain have been linked together. So get your sleep, okay? Infrequent eating, dieting, and having a calorie level that's too low throughout the day. Though that is an obvious one, right? If you are infrequently eating, like you have big stretches of time between your meals, obviously you get hungry, you can get over hungry, and you all know what happens when we get over hungry. What do? We go for the first thing that we can find because we just want to fill up and get the hunger satiated. And usually the first thing that we can find is not the really healthy chicken that is and brown rice that needs to be cooked for like 45 minutes. No, we go for things that are super, super fast and easy, which is oftentimes junk food, chips. We all know that, right? Cookies, things that are not the best for us, but provide really, really easy energy and quick energy. If you're undercaloried, we tend to have that same sense. The body has this feeling of like there's just not enough. And so it's looking to top up its energy stores, and it tends to shove you into cravings of, again, things that provide quick energy to kind of fill you up. And it's just really hard to make good decisions when you are hungry. So it's one of the bigger reasons why we tend to have those cravings. Dehydration. So speaking of, I have my water right here. Dehydration has been one of my big things lately because I have been known to be a terrible drinker, like a camel. So dehydration is often mistaken for hunger. And so we tend to eat instead of thinking about the liquids. So keeping yourself topped up, not only does that put something into your stomach to help you feel maybe a little more satiated, but it also solves the problem of confusing the two. So if you're still hungry and you know you're not dehydrated, well, then you actually are hungry, and you can take care of the problem in the right way. The other thing about dehydration is that your body needs water to process carbohydrate. So if you're eating carbohydrates, which most of us are, right, you need water to process those. And if you don't have enough water, then the carbohydrate is not utilized as well throughout your system. And so again, you have this feeling of tiredness because carbohydrate, of course, is one of those big energy boosters. And so that triggers that feeling of, oh, I need to eat something to, get myself boosted back up again for my energy levels. So these are all kind of, if you kind of sense this, they're all kind of doing this little round circle thing where it's like, oh, there's all these different inputs, but they're all sort of leading themselves back around to the other. So the low blood sugar issue seems to be a very common denominator between all of these. Okay. All right. And then the final one, which is elimination. So if you're doing any kind of eliminate, like you just are taking complete food groups out of your diet, that can also, of course, lead to cravings. When you can't have something, you will oftentimes want it. We know that, right? And so there's that sense of not having a control factor because you're eliminating these big things, and now your body's shouting at you to eat it. And now you have this internal, struggle going on. And oftentimes, if you are tired, stressed, anxious, dehydrated, your cravings will win. So, hey, Rich, thanks for coming in. Oh, and Beth, hey, thanks for coming in, Beth. Nice to see you guys. Okay, So let's talk a little bit about the three big ones, right? And you guys, if you have specific cravings that you have experienced in the past, please, and you want to, if you feel comfortable posting them up, post them up, and we can talk about them specifically. I'm going to actually talk about the three sort of major ones, not specific like actual foods, but the parts of the food that we crave. So first and foremost is salt. Okay, big one. Lots of people crave chips and, salty kinds of like processed meats and things like that. Salt is very often a dehydration one. So if you are craving salt, you might check your hydration status first and make sure that you are topped up. And just as a little side note, we all know how to know if we're dehydrated, right? If your pee looks like Big Bird, okay, like bright yellow, that's a problem. You are dehydrated. So it should look like straw, like really light colored straw. And that's how you know that you're hydrated up. So if you're craving salt and you have like bright yellow pee, get yourself to the water and start drinking up. Also, it could be a potential electrolyte imbalance, but that's not usually the case if we're kind of eating good varieties of food. We usually have, and especially for athletes, if they're doing E-tabs, electrolyte tabs in their water when they're exercising, usually electrolytes are not the problem, but could be. But typically, I think it's dehydration. Okay. All right, sugar. That's the next big one. Cookies, candy, chocolate. All those good ones, right? That is particularly a blood sugar issue. So if your blood sugar is off, you have an imbalance in your blood sugar, you will again go for those quick energy things. So sugar is one of those. Typically comes from not eating enough. Okay, so not getting enough calories in, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. Not enough sleep. Again, we kind of mentioned that in the tired section. And then it potentially could be you have too much of that in your diet. So if you're eating lots of processed foods and a lot of higher calorie types of stuff, starches, that kind of thing, if you get a lot of those in your diet, your body tends to want more of them. So that could be another reason why you have that particular craving. This is an interesting one, mineral deficiency. So magnesium is a big one, and it regulates blood sugar. It also is involved, I'm looking at my notes here, just make sure I get this right, involved in insulin production and glucose levels. So again, it's a blood sugar regulation mineral. And if you're low on that, then you could also be craving sugar out of that. So women in their monthly cycles and then also in menopause tend to have lower levels of magnesium, which is one of those sort of, kitschy reasons why women crave chocolate at certain times of the month, right? Because supposedly their magnesium levels are low. That was kind of funny. So one of the ways that you can ensure you have enough magnesium in your diet is lots of green leafy vegetables, rice, meat, beans, yogurt, that kind of stuff, just making sure that those levels are good. So that's the sugar thing. Fat's another one, right? French fries and fried foods, fried chicken and all that kind of stuff, those sorts of things. Why would we crave that? Again, it's a blood sugar imbalance and an idea that you don't have enough calories in the system. You're going up and down in your energy levels, and your body is looking for quick energy, and fat definitely produces that. Stress and anxiety might be another reason, because again of that soothing effect that comes from fat, that dopamine level hit that we get from fat. So again, kind of check the stress and anxiety levels and see if that might be part of the issue. And here's another thing, right? Research very strongly suggests that high fat diets change your brain's chemistry to really, really, really want that. So people that tend to be on those higher fat diets can find themselves overeating a little bit more simply because their brain chemistry is starting to shift a little bit. It's usually in response to things like junk food, it's in that kind of thing. So the things that provide us really big loads really, really fast, okay? So those are our big three: salt, fat, and sugar. Okay. So what do we do to kind of work these cravings down a little bit and get them under control? Well, if you've heard anything, it will be maybe 3 things. 1, reduce your stress and anxiety, right? If there's ways to bring that down and find more calming methods throughout the day, meditation, taking a walk, focusing on things that you can control. I've done lots of stuff on that sort of stuff, lots of lives on that sort of thing. If you're interested, we can get you to those lives. But finding ways to reduce your stress and anxiety will definitely help sort of even things out, because we don't get those big adrenaline hits, right? And adrenaline eats up the blood sugar. So that is one way. Make sure you get enough sleep, right? 8 to 10 hours a night, 9 to 11 if you're an athlete. Super, super good for your whole sort of blood sugar issue. And then the biggest one, right, is to eat enough. I mean, this is a huge one. Making sure that you are eating enough and eating regularly is probably one of the best ways you can adjust those cravings. So eat frequently, okay? And I suggest like 2 to 3 hours. Every 2 to 3 hours you need to be eating. And I don't really mean like just eating like a little handful of nuts necessarily. Here's something to think about, and here's something to try. And I've been working on this the last couple months, and it's been really helpful. I basically have taken my meals, okay, so if I have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I break those into roughly 6 meals, okay? So I take my breakfast and I break it into 2 meals. So I just take the amount and divide it in half, and now I have 2 meals. I take my lunch, divide that in half, and now I have 2 meals. Dinner, divide that in half, and now I have 2 meals, okay? And those are eaten every 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours. Works great, because now you have like significant amounts of calorie coming in. It's still the same amount of food, but I'm just spreading it out over the day, right? And then the other thing that I'm doing is, and this is super helpful for feelings of fullness, satiety, also feelings of, I'm saying that wrong, aren't I? Satiety, I think is how you actually are supposed to say that. Nutritionists, correct me. The other thing that this addition does is to make sure that all of your micronutrients are topped up. So I make sure to have a really big vegetable portion with every one of those, okay? And so let's just look at some examples, right? Okay, so I just had this for lunch. I had chicken breast or chicken thighs, and then I had some broccoli, and I had a little bit of rice. So I just want to show you like what I mean when I say like vegetable portion. So here's my little bowl. Okay, see this? Now watch this. Okay, you guys are gonna be like, oh my gosh. And this is like at every meal. So this is like 6 times a day, right? So here's my little bag of broccoli. Okay. Shelly says, I feel like I'd be eating all day. Yeah, you do. It's awesome. I love it. It's the best thing in the world. Like, why would you not want to eat all day, right? It's fabulous. So I'm going to show you how much the vegetable ends up being. You guys are going to be like, oh my gosh. But I tell you what, cuts the cravings. Okay, so can you see how full that is? That, and I cook this, so I'm not trying to eat this raw. Oh my goodness, that would be a nightmare, right? You'd be chewing and chewing and chewing for hours. Now I cook this, microwave it like 5 minutes with a lid on top, a little bit of salt, cooks it down, delicious, right? But that's a significant amount of vegetables right there. I mean, that's like a whole thing full of broccoli, okay? So then the other thing is a salad, right? So here's the other, okay, you see this bowl right here? This is what I do at night with dinner, with one of them, with my last meal of the day. Here's my little bowl, okay? We're gonna add some delicious organic power greens, yum-o, okay? So watch what I mean by salad, okay? All right, putting it in, putting it in. Putting it in, okay, that's probably, and then I kind of squish it a little bit. I kind of do this little squishy thing, squish it up, squish so I can put even a little more in there. Probably about like that. Okay. Salad, and then I put all the other vegetables on top of that. So I put my cucumbers and my beets and my carrots and my mushrooms, and okay, whatever else do I want to put on there. A little bit of dressing. This goes along with my dinner. So you talk about like filling up, right? By the time you eat that big old salad, I don't want to, you know, I'm a big chocolate chip craver. I was mentioning that in my video yesterday. I love chocolate chips. And I used to eat chocolate chips after lunch and after dinner every day. And since I started doing this, where I split up my meals and eat much more regularly than I used to, and I have these big portions of vegetables with it, and I'm drinking all my water, which I was terrible at before, I tell you what, cravings have disappeared. One, I'm full, which is nice, okay? Two, I'm processing foods a whole lot better. So I don't have these big swings of like, oh my gosh, I'm so hungry and I'm going to eat all this stuff. And now I'm like so ridiculously full, I can't even move. No. It's like a constant kind of full, little bit hungry, full, little bit hungry, full, little bit hungry. And I'm hydrated. So I definitely know that. And my little chocolate chip cravings, gone. I haven't eaten chocolate chips in a couple months now. And not that I don't want to. I mean, if I wanted to have some chocolate chips, fine, no big deal. But I'm full. I feel good. I don't have these big swings of like, oh my gosh, I got to have something. So anyway, not that you necessarily have to do what I do. That's not what I'm suggesting. I'm just suggesting that you think about things a little bit and see if you can figure out, why do I have these cravings? What are the things where I'm kind of erring? I'm maybe not doing as well as I should. And then maybe start thinking about some ways that you can change and adjust. If you want some help, I'm totally happy to help. Like I said, comments, put your comments in, put your comments below. We can address them in some future lives maybe, or I can address them with you directly. Either way, okay? It's all good. All right, you guys, I hope that you found this helpful. For future lives, I'm doing these once a week, Wednesdays at 1. Make sure you have your Performance High notifications on so that you know when I pop up. That would be great. If you liked this, please hit the like button. Share it with anybody you think might benefit. And I look forward to having conversations with you guys about all this in the future. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.